Welcome everyone and good morning. Um, Thought I would start with just talking with a little bit about why Solver. So, what makes Solver different from some of the other corporate performance management products that are out there. So, thought I'd just talk a little bit about that. So, Solver is what I would class as a complete CPM solution. So, yes, we do the advanced reporting and the budgeting and forecasting components, but we also have a pre-built data warehouse. That means that you can pull in all of the data across your organization. So you kind of have one central source of the truth. So all that data, coming from Business Central, coming from any disparate system that you might have, you can have all of that data within the Solver data warehouse. And then of course you can report and budget and forecast off of that data. So we also do things if you have multiple companies and you do things like consolidations, you'd like to be able to consolidate those companies. I will show a couple examples of that today. So we do the consolidations. If you do things like eliminations, more of the advanced reporting capabilities, we also do that as well. And then last but not least, we are also integrated with Microsoft Power BI. So, it's completely up to you in terms of how you want to deliver the information. If you'd like to deliver to your team formatted reporting, or you'd like to deliver that same type of information in more of a dashboard view, you have the ability to do that. So Solver has a very deep integration with Power BI. So all of that data that's in the pre-built data warehouse can be made available for Power BI. So Solver's got a huge Microsoft focus. You're going to see that that is absolutely a differentiator. You will see that throughout the session today. Solver is a Microsoft certified product. We are, if you went out to Microsoft App Source, you would see that we have the little badge that says preferred solution. That means that is the recommended solution from Microsoft. Our technology focus, as I said, is really focused on Microsoft. So we're only available in the Microsoft Azure cloud. We have what I would term is probably the best integration to Excel on the planet, but I'll let everyone here today decide. But we have a very, very deep integration with Excel. And what that essentially means is that we do all of the design for reports. So all that formulation design for reports and budget templates happens in Excel, but everything from the user perspective all happens within the Solver cloud product. So if you're never designing any reports or budget templates, you would never go into Excel unless you wanted to crunch some numbers. But if you like to design things in Excel, this is certainly going to be something that you'll want to see today. Power BI integration, we talked about that already. One of the most important things that would be available to you as a Business Central customer is the Solver Quickstart. So the Solver Quickstart is essentially an integration that was co-developed with Microsoft. So what that does is it exposes all of the data segments within Business Central, and we can bring that data into the Solver data warehouse in minutes, not days. So that process happens very quickly. And then once we do that, it invokes what we call our marketplace. And within our marketplace, we have a number of different assets, those assets being report templates, budget and forecast templates, and Power BI dashboards. So those are pre-built out of the box. So does it address everything that you need across your business from a reporting and budgeting perspective and dashboard perspective? No. But does it help you get up and running in a very short period of time with a wide variety of assets to choose from? Absolutely. This is a fairly new venture for Solver, so we've been working on it probably for the last year and a half. Today we have about 120 different assets, and we are adding, I think, a new asset every 2 days. So fast forward from where we are today, you're going to see a lot of different reports and budget templates and everything within there. And you'll see a lot of it's going to become verticalized as well. So we'll have specific reports across different types of businesses as well, okay? So talking about different types of businesses, Solver is really, works across every type of business. So if you're wondering, is Solver the right product for me? We have customers in every walk of business within Australia. So we have everything from professional sports teams. You can see one of the microchannel customers, Institute of Public Accountants. We have accounting bodies. We have not-for-profits. We have government, healthcare. Really, for us, it's all about grabbing your data across your organization, and that's the key. It doesn't really matter to us so much what type of organization that you are. We can meet your requirements. Amanda, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So as Mike was mentioning, here's some of the customers that Microchannel has running Solver. We've actually had a really great history of uptake with the solution, which is great testament to the robustness of Solver. Microchannel has been awarded elite partner status with Solver, which is fantastic, and that's now known as a premier partner. So that's great. So back to you, Mike, to get started with the demo.
All right, there's a lot to cover here. So I'm going to get right to it. And there's absolutely no way I can cover everything. If you see here on the left-hand side, the menu that I have, there's a lot of different components to Solver. So the Solver solution, you can make it as easy as you'd like to, or you can add as much functionality as you really want. And one of the things that I'll tell you right now is that I'm a super user in here, so I have access to everything. But if my only role was reporting, I would only have the report templates here, and then I would have the homepage. Every user will have the homepage. And that's where I'm landed right now. So if I had access to data, this would be turned on, which basically just means I can learn about adding data to within the Solver environment, or I can actually go out and start the process of fetching that data from here. We also have full support. So, this is always important for you as a user. You're like, who's going to help me? How am I going to learn? Who's there for me, right? So we spend a lot of time really working on the assets for the customer to make sure that you always have the ability to learn about Solver and get support when it's needed, whether it's you want to go out to a forum and ask a question, or whether you want to go into the e-learning environment in the academy. So the support portal is a great place, especially if you like to read documentation. We have documentation across everything here. We also have a support forum. So if you want to post a question or read about particular topics, you can do that. And experts from across the globe will chime in on those topics. You can also issue a support ticket from within the support portal. And then, of course, we also have the Solver Academy. So this is an e-learning space. And I went ahead and opened it up for you. So you can go in, I just searched reporting. You can see reporting's down here. I've got 135 different classes. There will be classes that are generic, but there will also be classes that are specific to Business Central. So if the one right here on the top, if I wanted to go and learn about how to create custom drill to transactions, if I want to drill into things like source documents or GL detail or whatever it is, and how to build those types of reports, 7 minutes, I can watch start and stop this, whatever time that I want. You can really learn everything about Solver, not only Solver, but also about Excel and Power BI and anything related to Solver within the Solver Academy environment. So great tool. Getting into the product, we'll start off with so this is not just about reporting. I have the formatted reporting side. I also have the ability at any point in time to do things like ad hoc reporting. So if I went into ad hoc reporting, I've only got one that I've saved, but you can see that I can save something. So just to give you a quick idea, I won't spend too much time in here, but just to give you an idea of the things I can do, I went in across the modules and I said, show me all the products that I have. And if I expanded on consulting services, for example, I said, show me which customers are using these across which of my companies and what was the amounts that were purchased. And it probably took me a whopping 3 minutes to do a query like this. If I wanted to do something like a graph at any point in time, I can always do that as well. So if I wanted to say, see consulting services and where where they, what offices are providing those and how much. Very easy for me to kind of have a self-service tool to be able to query all of my data. So if I go back here, everybody likes to see the proof in the pudding. I'll do something really quick for you. You can see that, let me move the go-to meeting thing out of the way. So if I go up here, you can see I have all of my different modules. So this is all of the data across my organization. This is not just Business Central. I mean, you can see things like Google Analytics. I might have my payroll from, you know, an external source, but all of my modules are across the organization are in here, all of that data. So if I went in and just said, hey, you know, let's look at account. I'm just do a quick GL inquiry and show me my account descriptions. And, you know, I said, show me that. I can see that all within just a matter of a couple of seconds, right? So I could do things like maybe add an amount or something. Hey, show me the monthly amount. And then I could, of course, go and change the period if I wanted to. It'll default to the current period. And I said, refresh that. It's going to show me the monthly amount. So if I liked that, or I wanted to share it or export it out to Excel, I have all of that capability at my fingertips. So again, you can make this available to all the users. So that's kind of the first step. Very simple, very intuitive. Most users can pick this up, you know, and be pretty good with it. Watching a 10-minute training class and within an hour, really, you know, they can be dangerous with it in a very short period of time. So talk a little bit about reporting. So I have the ability to go through, this is my reporting library, and if I scroll down, you'll see I've got lots and lots of reports. And I can categorize those reports. So, you know, if I wanted to look at my favorites, for example, these are all of my favorites. I can create a new category on the fly. I can share these categories. So if I said, let me go across the organization, share these different categories with people, I have the ability to do that as well. Now I can either give users flexibility in creating these categories on their own, or I can set a standard group of categories where everybody's using the same categories with the same reports, or a variation of the same reports. So really easy to be able to, you know, kind of, you know, find information. So if I went in here and I said, show me all of my, you know, P&Ls, I can go and search all of my P&Ls. So I've got quite a few. They're similar, but you know, they're all different, right? They're all addressing something different. And this is a great kind of segue to everything about Solver. It doesn't matter whether, in this case, it's a P&L, but it doesn't matter if it's a customer report or an operational report or, you know, sales or whatever it is that you're building. You can build an unlimited number of variations of those reports. So really, you can have as many variations of a report as you'd like. So it may be that the report is good for one person, but you want to change it for another person or user, you can do that quite simply, and I'll show you that actually. So if I also wanted to go and search by categories, so show me all my P&Ls and let's say financial reports or my favorites, I can also search by category quite simply. So when you see the reports inside of the category for my favorites, that you'll notice that there's one that's maroon. And what that indicates is that that is a favorite report. So if I were to just go and select, let's say I went and selected, sorry, not a favorite report, it would indicate that it's a report package, meaning that it's a group of reports. Yes, it's in my favorites, but if I were to go and select a couple of reports, like you see my daily sales and this P&L here, oops, sorry, select a couple of reports, I can always go and add them to a package. So I can add that to either an existing package to make a report book, or I could create a new one on the fly. So if I had, you know, several different financial reports and I wanted to group those into a monthly, you know, financial reporting package, I could do that on the fly quite easily, okay? I will go ahead and run the report. So the first thing that you're going to notice, right, I'm in the Solver Cloud. The first thing that you're going to notice here is that this report was built in Excel. And you're going to see that because you're going to see, you know, conditional formatting. I've got expansion groups. So I'm looking at my year-to-date actuals. If I wanted to expand on that and look at more of the periodic information, I can do that as well. I also have expansion groups. If I scroll down within the report, I have expansion groups. So if I want to learn a little bit more about, salaries and benefits, I can expand and see a little bit more of the sub-account information, right? So clearly that's telling you that you're in Excel. And if I were to, hit this little header thing, you can kind of see I've got more of that Excel look and feel in here as well. A couple of things to note about this report, and these are just general kind of ideas on how reporting works. You can always put in narratives. So this whole these two sentences here are what we call auto narratives. These were automatically created based on the results that were returned when I ran the report. I didn't type any of this in. So this is a very simple example, but we have some very complex examples that will say, the profitability this month was great, and such and such. And how does it know it's great? It's because you defined those drivers within the report, so you have all of that capability as well inside of Solver. If I wanted to drill into something, for example, like a number, and I said, show me this information, I can drill in, look at the general ledger detail, and within just a couple of seconds, I can see all of the information, transactional information that's related to that amount, so including the individual amounts. And then I can just pop back into the report. If you ever want to be able to put, directions to the user in here or add any tab within a report for whatever reason, you can do that. Now, these are demo instructions, but these could clearly be users, notes to the users on what to look for, how to operate within the report, et cetera, et cetera. If I wanted to add comments within any report, actually comments anywhere within Solver, you can do that. So within this report, if I added comments, that comment would be saved for the life of the report. There's normally a little save button here, but I've removed it. So if anybody came in and ran this report for this entity, for this budget scenario, for this period, they would see this report or this comment. We also have the ability to add comment sheets. So you can see there's already a comment sheet that's attached here. But if I were to go and look in my library, I've only got one, but you could have an unlimited number of comment sheets within your library. They're quite simple to build. I built this one in like 5 minutes or less. Again, this is more about the report itself, not necessarily a specific line item within a report, okay? So the point is you have the ability to comment on anything within inside of Solver, okay? If I wanted to change the parameters at all, and the parameters, by the way, are defined by the person that builds the report. So I could have whatever parameters I want. Could be, customers, it could be products, it could be locations, it could be really anything that I want, including the ability to do trees. Solver has the ability to do trees as well. So if I were to go in here and say, you know what, I don't want to see Canada, I want to see Europe instead, and I say use that value and rerun the report, instantaneously I'll have, as long as I have access to these companies, whether it's companies or departments or products or anything else that I'm querying, as long as I have access to those, I'll see that information instantaneously. You'll also notice that I have, this is a key part for budgeting, I have a budget column here in column G. Well, what if I have multiple variations of a budget, right? So you'll see that I can go and choose that budget scenario. So here I've got the budget scenario, but I have budget version number 15. I have a forecast, multiple forecast versions. I have, what if scenarios. I can select any of those. If I were to select forecast, what it would do is it would come back here and change this to forecast, and it would bring back those numbers, instantaneously. So I have a lot of, we'll call it self-service ability to be able to go through and, query the information that I have access to, and I can really do a lot without having to ask people to run particular reports for me. I can also add this to my archive. So you'll see over here on the left-hand side that I have an archive, and this is a great tool. It's also a user type. So if you don't want a user to have this type of functionality where they change the parameters, you'd like to be able to set those parameters for them, they would be an archive user. But I can also archive reports to myself. And you might ask, well, why would I do that? Well, the reason I would do that, think about month-end close, for example. If I wanted to see, what what the numbers were at 8 o'clock and I'd like to in the morning, and I'd like to see what the numbers are at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Whenever I archive this, it's going to date and time stamp that report, and those numbers are locked. Right here, if I run this report multiple times, it's going to give me whatever's current within the system. Okay, so it's running that live, so to speak. Okay. Sharing the report, one of the best things about Solver, and I know it doesn't work necessarily this way in a lot of other products. If I wanted to go and share this report with Archie or Bud, I could do that very easily. I could just select them and say share. I don't need to worry about what information they have access to. It has nothing to do with me sharing the report with them, because we would have already determined that when we set them up as a user. What companies, what departments, what accounts, what information can they see? We would have already decided that. So if I shared something that a report that had information they didn't have access to, they wouldn't be able to run the report. Okay. Ability to export out to Excel. I'll just show you this and a PDF. Not all products are created equal. And what I mean by that is a lot of products will have kind of some different technology that's over it, where it's translating formulations. But if I go in here and I look at a formulation, it's exactly as you would expect it to be. It's an Excel formulation, right? If I were to look at the variance formula, it's a standard if formula. It's exactly the same if I were to go into the cloud and look at that formulation. So anything that I export out of Solver or into Solver from Excel will be exactly as you would expect it to be. Okay. So I could actually go, I have the ability to edit. Not everybody would necessarily have this ability to edit, right? Design or edit reports, you would never leave the cloud environment. So I have the ability to edit. I have a license to be able to do that. So I could actually go into the report right here and make changes. But what I wanted to show you is something that's pretty cool. So if I went in, I'll choose another report and I select this report, it's going to automatically give me all of these different options. And one of the options is duplicate. So I could duplicate this, and I'm going to call this Amanda's report, right? So we'll do this P&L for, right? And that quickly, I just duplicated the report. So you can see how the report already has a snapshot here because I run the report, but when I duplicated it, I don't have the snapshot. Now I could open it up and then I could edit it from there, but I don't even have to do that. I can just go, I'd like to be able to edit this report. So I say, let's edit this report. And what it's going to do, it's kind of the best of both worlds, right? Except with Excel, there's always a love-hate relationship, and people love format, formulation, and design, but they don't like, data reliability and, how do I share certain parts without that, this, and how do I get data and cut and paste and all that stuff, can kind of be, daunting. So here, what I have is I have all of my data, right? So you remember you saw some of this information earlier. I have my GL, APAR, I've got Google Analytics. All of these little boxes here are all different, data elements from across my organization. I can mix and match any piece of this to build a report. So if I wanted to mix Google Analytics and say, how's my revenue from my website trending with my current revenue, I could do that, right? Very easily. So here you see the report. This is the actual report. At no point in time do we ever store data inside of Excel. So if I were to go and look at the variance formula, same thing, same formulation. Look at the variance percentage, same exact thing. So if I were to go into this report and say, Amanda liked this report, but we didn't want Amanda to do any comments, I could just go through and I could start editing it. Maybe we'll make this look a little bit different. We'll change the color and then we'll, let's do something. We will go through this and we'll just kind of make it a little bit So we know, we changed the color, we made a little prompt, but we already know it's Amanda's report, right? So we've saved that, and we could go and run it and look at it, but I made a very simple change, right? I could make any change in here, and it would work exactly the same way. So very intuitive reporting tool. Now I've made my change, and I want to save that. So I push save. I do not need to save this to my desktop. I don't need to save it to a folder. I could, but why? I can pull it out of Solver at any point in time that I want to, and with a great amount of reliability that it's going to look exactly as I want it to, right? So I said save the draft, okay. I could just close down Excel. I could go back into that report. I could run the report. Again, this is all the same kind of time frames that you would have, and of course I'm doing this over GoToMeeting, so you can kind of see what the speed looks like. It's going to remember the defaults from when I last ran this report, or when I copied it, what was last run. So I go and run Amanda's report, and there you'll see the change, and the comments are now no longer there, right? And she can start going through and drilling the report. Once I make sure that it's okay, I can publish that draft and then share it with Amanda. So Amanda's, in this case, she doesn't have the ability to edit reports. She just asked me to do it for her, okay? So very easy, very intuitive to be able to go through and design and build reports. Not to mention that there's lots of examples that are already available for you. Just to kind of talk a little bit about some other things that we can do within reports, I will show you just a couple of cool things. So one is the ability to add trees within any report. So you can build an unlimited number of hierarchical tree structures. So here you can see I have the same entity parameter, but inside of that parameter, I have trees. So if I close that down, I've got minority interest, consolidation, ownership. I've got literally hundreds of trees. I filtered a lot of them out. I've got a line of business. So you can see that this was ran on the Asia region. So that was in my line of business, that was in my geography, Asia region. And what it did was it consolidated the Asia region on one tab, and then I have Australia individually or Europe individually on their own tabs. If I wanted to go back here and say, hey, you know what, I just want to run this for Australia, and I reran this report, or any other variation across my lines of business, manufacturing versus distribution, or whatever those lines of business might be, I can do that instantaneously. The beauty here is I only ever built one report, okay? So a lot of flexibility. With that, I could spend hours talking about reporting, but I'm gonna move on just because conscious of time here. So the other type of reporting that's great is I talked about the archive reporting. So you remember that I archived something to myself 9 minutes ago. So if I go and look at that report, you'll see that the parameters I can't change. It tells me what they are, but I can't change it. So this is kind of I like to use the term static report on steroids. So yes, it's static, but as a user, I can still drill into the information. I can still do all of those other things I could do, but I just can't change the parameters, okay? And the reason it turned green here is it's telling me, it was yellow before, it's telling me, hey, you can't add any comments anymore. But I can go and look at the directions to the report. If there are any comments that were saved, I could look at those as well. So that's one cool part. The other cool part is if I wanted to do any type of comparison. So you can see I have the same report. I'll select this US and I will select Australia. Same report, different companies. And then I could go and say, let's open those reports up. Now, to be honest, I don't really like this view. I don't like the over-under view. I like the side-by-side view. So here I have the US and Australia, both looking at my two organizations. These don't have to be different companies. These could be cost centers. These could be, you know, really anything. And I could go through and I could just do side-by-side. Of course, I can drill into them. If I want to look at one report over the other, just close one out. I can constantly change the size of, you know, the information or the viewing space that I have within Solver, right? So I can expand and collapse things very easily within Solver. If I wanted to print this or download this report, I can very easily. So the last kind of cool thing about this is I also have the ability to build playlists. So we talked about report packages, and that was just a group of reports. I never really showed that, and trust me, it's, you know, it is what it is. It's a bunch of reports consolidated. Here, I can go through and do playlists. So if I went and said, show me the board presentation, you could see the reports that are in there. I could look at them individually, but I could also just say, show me the playlist. So great. So what you see is that I have two different reports. I could just hover over them. There's my briefing card, and there's my briefing book with an auto narrative in it. So here's the briefing card. I can go kind of look at, you know, all the cool stuff related to Solver if I wanted to, or related to the company. And if I wanted to dive into the data, I could do that as well. Or I could go over and start really getting into the body of the report. That was a briefing about the report. This report is also a report package inside of the playlist. So you see I have multiple reports here. So what this is doing is this is giving me an advanced narrative. The profitability this month was great. How does it know the profitability this month was great? How does it know the US sees great improvement? That's because I decided what is, you know, good, great, poor, etc., based on certain drivers within the reports, and you can do that across Solver. So really, really cool. I get a really good snapshot if I want to dive into the, you know, the financial side of the report, yet another variation of a report with graphs, and I can dive into sales. Again, I can drill into all of this information if I want to start looking at individual transactions or customers, payments, receivables. Really, you know, like I always tell people, if you don't like the way this report looks, change it, build it the way you want it, right? Excel's the most powerful, you know, design tool on the face of the planet. So you have a lot of, it's really about what you can dream up in terms of the types of reports that you want to build. Okay, so gonna move on now. And by the way, we can always publish reports automatically. Not much to show there, just think about subscriptions. If I wanna send different people different reports across the organization at different days of the month or different times, I can do that. I set that up automatically and I never have to worry about it again. It just goes at whatever set times. Excuse me. Talk a little bit about some of the assets that are available to you, right? So we talked about reports. So I'm not going to get into showing really the Quickstart process. There's, you know, because there's not a lot of to show there. What I want to do is I want to give everybody the ability to go and look at this information on their own. So Amanda's going to follow up and she's going to give you a couple of links, and this will be one of them. This is, now if I go up to the top here, it'll say there's 500 additional examples. Those are just generic reports. You can see different examples of types of reports that you can build. They're also available to you, but they don't work out of the box. All of the reports and templates in here, dashboards, they all work out of the box with Quickstart. So if you said, well, I want to look at this balance sheet, that's a beautiful balance sheet, works out of the box when you run the Quickstart. So you could go from having nothing in Solver to running this report in just a couple of hours. You wouldn't have to build anything. And of course, you can always edit reports. And so if you wanted to do a slight change in this report, you could do that. So just a few examples. This is a great thing for you to do, to go, if you have an interest in Solver, go spend a few minutes and go through and look at this. You'll see now I'm getting into the Power BI dashboards that are available. So if you say, yes, let me learn a little bit more about this dashboard, I want to view it, you can do that as well. And if I scroll down further, there are some budget templates. There's more advanced reports, and then you'll see some budget templates that are out of the box as well. Okay. So another thing that you can do is you can go into the Solver website, and Amanda will give you this link as well. And what you'll see in here is interactive examples of dashboards. So the first one is all the Quickstart dashboards. So I thought I'd open that up. I did. So there's 53 different dashboards today out of the box and growing. So this is an example of a dashboard. So if you go in, you can go in and kind of run these and see what they look like. Like I want to see what it looks like for August and change the year or whatever. It's all interactive, right? This gives you an idea of what the dashboards will look like, and you can just peruse through the different types of assets that are available for you, right? All of Power BI is going to be very interactive, so you can click through it and really learn about this type of information and what's available to you. Okay. The other thing is you can go through the different dashboards that are here. So if you're in a particular vertical that we might have some examples for, you can go and click in there as well. So if you're in not-for-profit, for example, you could go in for the nonprofit section. Here's an example actually that my team built of a not-for-profit dashboard. So lots of good dashboards to go in and look at. And then also, I'll just kind of walk you through this really quickly. We'll spend 5 minutes before we go over to budgeting. So you'll see that there's 6 different dashboards that are associated with this, and again, it's very interactive. But you'll also see links in here. We'll talk about that in a second. But I'll give you an idea of some of the stuff that's coming with Solver, some of the stuff that's already here, and some of the stuff that kind of the roadmap and what we're doing. So you can really sense that there is a strong integration with Microsoft when you're in here looking at Power BI. So right now, if you're doing something like cash flow simulation, you're going to a spreadsheet, or even if you were in Solver, you go into a cell, you would change a number and say, well, I wanted to change my product revenue increase by 15% or my service increase by 10%. And you go and punch those numbers into the spreadsheet, rerun it, and you get the total. Here, I have the ability to go through and just start moving the sliders. I don't want to include Canada in my numbers, whatever it is that I'm doing, and it's changing that ending cash balance, all as I'm walking through this simulation process. Today, once I got those numbers, I could then go and I could select the different templates that are associated with this. In this case, the cash flow budget or the balance sheet, and it would launch me right back to those related forms, whether it's a report or a budget template. It would launch me to that, and then I could start inputting the numbers. One of the things that we're working towards on our roadmap is to have this done automatically. So when you got to the ending cash balance, you could say, boom, I want to save that. And it's automatically posting the increase in product revenue of 15% and the increase in service revenue of 10%, et cetera, et cetera. So lots going on there. Again, there's just a lot of great different dashboard examples in Power BI that you can go and look at. And again, with Power BI, if you don't want to use what's available from Solver, you can always build them however you want them to be, okay? So with that, we're going to dive back into budgeting. Excuse me. So whenever I was talking about reporting, I was actually talking about budgeting as well. They're virtually the same product from the design perspective. There's just differences. So budgeting will have things like spreader bars and things like that you wouldn't see inside of reporting. But the design process and everything I showed you about how I duplicate and how I design and all that all works the same, okay? You can see that the categories work the same. So if I'm looking at, show me my allocation templates, right? I'm gonna be able to see that. If I wanted to build new categories, I could do this. When you're in the input template side, this is really where the budget manager or the lead finance person that's managing the budget is going to reside. They're going to make sure that the form is designed properly. They're going to assign it out to the different members. If you don't assign for contribution from different team members, and you're just going to go do the input yourself, you would just stay in here. You just go open up the form, you do the input, and that would be it. But if you're getting input from your team members, which is most likely the scenario or something that you want to move towards, you would create an assignment. So very easy for me to take one of these templates and say, create an assignment, assign it out to Amanda. If I go into the assignments, it's two things that you'll see here for me specifically. One is that I have my annual budget assignment, and the other is that I have a sales forecast or a single assignment, meaning this is just one form. And the reason that I might want to do this is because maybe I'm doing something like a sales forecast where I'm updating it regularly. So when I'm updating those numbers, all of my budget data is stored into the data warehouse. And you've already seen with the reports that I can pull that budget data into my reports instantaneously. So if I'm looking at, sales actuals to the forecast, I'm getting whatever's being input in here instantaneously. So I may not want to close this, right? I want to keep this open. If I wanted to close it, cool, I could have a regular assignment. This assignment, I'll open it up, has a start and end date to it, right? I start my budget process in, the first part of, or middle of April, and it ends, in June, whatever that process might be. If you have a calendar year end, whatever your process is, you decide when it starts and when it finishes. I have two templates that I haven't started, my personnel template, my CapEx template. I have two that are in progress, meaning I opened them up, I did some kind of contribution to them, and then I saved them because I'm going to get back to them later. Then I have one that is, awaiting my approval because I'm also approving templates for other users, right? Other contributors. So I can also be an approver. And then I have one that I've completed, which means I've submitted it. So if I save it up here and it's in progress, I can come back to it anytime I want. If I said submit and complete, I can still view it, but I can no longer change any data. The budget manager would have to open this template back up for me, okay? So I'll go in and just kind of show you a few minutes of other expenses. I'm gonna pick it up a little bit so I don't run out of time. So again, you can design these however you want. If you don't like the way this looks, don't get too caught up in that. It's, really you can build them however you want them to look. These are just examples. So if I scroll over to the right here, you'll see that I have some actual data. I have some forecast data because I said, or the budget manager said when they assigned it to me, choose last actual period, and they assigned October as the last period. I can view these, but I can't change any because I'm just a contributor to the budget. Okay. If you wanted me to change these, you could change my my status. I could be more of a budget manager or something, but I'm really just responsible for input here. So I've worked in Excel before, so this is all familiar. I said gifts and donations 4,000. I'm pretty generous, and I just spread that across the year. If that was the only thing I had to do, I'd just go to the next line item and start going. But we know it's never that easy, right? So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go into spreading and line item details. And as I said before, at any point in time, I can always expand the viewing area, right? And if I want more area here to be able to see things, I can expand or collapse, right? So I'm working on gifts and donations, and you can see that contribution of 48,000 across the year. If I wanted to change that number right now and I said 56,000, I could then go and say, well, what spreading methods do I have? If my business has seasonality or something like that, where I've got, summer, winter, fall, whatever it might be, I could choose those, or really any type of spreading method that I want. I'll use the even spreading method, and then I'll just spread that. It's spreading that 56,000 equally across the year, and any variance it's putting into December. And that's just because I told it to do it that way when I built the template. Or I could say, you know what, let's go look at last year's budget. And, we've had some turbulent times of late, so I want to offset this a few periods, right? So pandemic, whatever it was, I'm going to offset 3 periods. So you can see that green cursor moved. And then I'm going to adjust this by a percentage here, because if it was units based, I could do unit based as well. Plus or minus, I'm going to do it 15% increase, and I'm going to say adjust. So what it did is it just went and looked at what this was for 2021. It offset it by 3 periods and then increased it by 15%. Done, right? I could, you know, scroll to the next one as I want. I could scroll with my mouse if I wanted to, however I want to do that. And wherever, if I need to do this. You'll also notice there are some red cell indicators in here, and that's telling me that I've got some line item details. So if I selected this 22,500, you'll see that I have some line item detail. I could go in here and type in vendor 7. You'll notice there's nothing in my spreader bar. As soon as I hit that cell, it's going to say, hey, do you want to use that spreading method that you used last time? I could ignore that, and I could just go in here and say, you know, $750. And by the way, I said you could put comments everywhere. You can see here comments even at the line item detail level, all of which I can report on. So comments, there it is. It added that little red triangle there automatically, and I could just go through my budget and I could complete the budget. If I want to understand more about the directions of the budget or instructions, I can go and read those as well. These again are demonstration instructions, but these could have been policies, procedures, step-by-step instructions, you know, that were provided to me by the budget manager. I can then go back to my my spreadsheet. I could add any comments in that I had to, for the budget manager. But if I wanted to add comments related to the process, not a line item here, I could just go and say, okay, well, let me go into the log and I'm going to add some comments about what I did. Why did I buy, you know, spend so much money in office supplies? I was buying our office equipment. I bought new desks or whatever it was. I could type all of that in as well. Okay. And that will stay, all of this information, anything that I type in related to comments or anything else will stay with this for the life of the system. I could save this data and come back to it later and make changes, or I could complete the assignment as you saw earlier, and I would no longer be able to make any changes, right? You can always add other templates in here for review as well. So this is payroll info, it can't be changed. It's only the yellow stuff can be changed. Blue means you can view it, or gray or any other color, you can view it. That's just how we do it. You can do it however you want, but I can't change any of this information, okay? I think I've got 2 minutes or less here. Just want to show you a couple of different types of, again, we could spend an hour on budgeting as well, just some cool stuff. So you see how I search for things. I've got a lot of templates, so very easy for me to search through things. You can do payroll templates, you know, to your heart's content. Anything that you really want to do, you can build it within Solver. You know, data, all the data across your organization. This is a really cool example of, you know, being able to do things quickly. I showed an example where I was doing a lot of input in the other expenses template, but here I'll actually just talk about this. If I scroll to the right, you'll see that I have my actuals up to September, because that's what I said, right? Actuals through September. And I need to forecast for the remainder of the year. So I'll actually expand this up. So what I will do is this particular one, and I have many examples, works off my desired net income. It can work off anything. It can work off total revenue, can work off, you know, just about anything. So if I put in $1 million, for example, and I said enter, it's now created the remainder, it's created my forecast for the remainder of the year. So it's looked at all the annualized actuals, all the formulations, algorithms inside of this template, and it's populated the remaining months for the rest of the year. But if I wanted, so I don't have to go do any input, right? Like you saw before, and this could be a budget. It doesn't have to be a forecast template. It could be a budget template as well. But what you'll notice is that I can also add to any budget template things like this. I want to go in by department and I want to increase or decrease. I'm going to increase my admin, not by 20%, by 2%. And if I scroll down, you'll see here in departmental expenses, everything's been increased by 2%, therefore changing that forecast. If I wanted to change by increase or decrease by an accounting grouping, I could go into revenue and say, well, I'd like to increase all of my revenue categories 10%. So all of my revenue categories just increase 10%. And again, affecting the forecast. So, you know, I don't have to type things in. I can use last year's actuals, the last 5 years average of actuals. I can use whatever I want to be able to start any template. And then I can adjust things at high levels by percentages, by dollar amounts. I really have a lot of flexibility. At the end of all that, if I wanted to go in and then say, well, you know what, I want to make an adjustment to this particular product revenue category. I want to increase this product revenue 2%. I could do that. Again, it's going to change the numbers, or minus, 3%. I could again change the numbers. Okay. So that's a really good example of being able to do this. One's what we call a breakback, or it's kind of a what if analysis. But again, having unlimited variations of this report, this template, you can do very easily. One other example I will show you. I know I'm over a little bit, but I'll make this quick. And you can kind of just go through and look at some of the things. Find. And by the way, this little column that I keep closing is just a quick parameter. If instead of me going through and selecting parameters, if I run it before, I can just check the box and it automatically runs it for that parameter setup. So this is a full budget, right? I've got all of my different account categories. I have the ability to go through and add, the department can add comments, the managers can add comments, etc. But I can make a global change on any budget by a percentage or a dollar amount. There, I just changed my budget. I've gotten a little bit crazy and I've added a lot of different actuals. I've actually added an expansion group if I wanted to use any type of interim or information or other actual or forecast information. You can add whatever you want. As long as you have that data, you can add it. I've thrown in a what if column. This was really for the purpose of reforecasting numbers, but you can also see budget variance for 2021 by amounts and percentages. I could then go into the budget and add any comments. So if the department had submitted this and they didn't have any comments, or maybe they did or they didn't, I could still come in and add my comments. And as the budget manager or the manager of that department, and then I could say I want to increase this by 2%, or I want to increase it by a dollar amount, or what have you, and all of that is going to affect the outcome of the overall budget. So really, it doesn't matter if you want to do a top-down budget or bottom-up, or you want to have it populated with any information or build up all the information. That's really completely up to you. You can really build any type of template that you want. The last part of this to close out would be the workflow. So here I just ran the dashboard for the workflow. So you can select by the status, you can select by template, you can select by user. I have 2 that I haven't started. Actually, I've got 4 that I haven't started. I've got 4 that are in progress, awaiting, completed, etc. You can see, if you wanted to do this by, let's say you want to go and look at personnel, that's that payroll template's the priority for you. You can see where you are across your users in terms of who hasn't started it. I haven't started it, right? Other people are waiting approval. Okay, so full dashboard on all of the workflow components, and very easy to build up these workflows. You can do them within a matter of minutes.